I've always been fascinated by that old school sound we characterise with words like gritty, crunchy and warm, and the focus of this video is going to be on one of the main tools we can use to achieve that lo-fi effect, and this is called sample rate reduction.
If I am I because you are you, and you are you because I am I, then I am not I and you are not you. In other words, we are not separate. And any good scientist knows, therefore, that what you call the external world is as much you as your own body.
When we reduce sample rate, we also decrease the size of an audio file, and this was originally used by artists looking to save space on floppy disk, which could only store up to 1.4 megabytes per disk. Even though reducing sample rate is really useful for saving space, two of the other side effects are that we remove high frequency content, and we also introduce more aliasing noise and harmonic distortion the more we reduce the rate. In order to combat this distortion, samplers would use anti-aliasing filters. These are typically low-pass filters which are quite steep, and they would still introduce a very subtle amount of aliasing and distortion around the Nyquist limit in order to reproduce the audio as accurately as possible. In the EMU E5000 Ultra, which is a hardware sampler from the 90s, we can actually record at a higher sample rate and then use the sample rate conversion to reduce it. We also get the option to choose the anti-aliasing filter type here, which will each give us a slightly different response. I also thought it'd be cool to show you an example of me comparing the sample rate conversion of the EMU with a plugin like Decimort 2, where I've done my best to emulate it as closely as I can. As you probably heard there, you can get very close to the sound of these old hardware samplers with a plugin like Decimort for a fraction of the cost and effort, but I still wanted to take this experiment a step further. Whilst both the Akai and the EMU actually allow you to either record at a lower sample rate or convert the sample rate, there is another way to introduce this lo-fi quality into your sounds. What you can do is actually record your samples an octave up or speed them up in a turntable and then pitch them back down in your sampler. What's actually happening here is that every time we go up an octave, we double the sample rate, and then when we go down an octave, we decrease the sample rate by half. Now, what's interesting about that is we're not actually changing the original sample rate. What we're actually doing is introducing artifacts in aliasing through the sample's pitch interpolation method as we shrink and stretch the signal. The more we shrink and stretch the signal, the more artifacts appear. So I thought it'd be really interesting to maximize some of these settings, both with the pitch up and down technique and with the sample rate conversion technique, and then to see how close I could get these to match just by matching them by ear and changing these settings with quite extreme results, and so we can really hear the differences in these two techniques. The last thing I think I wanted to do to kind of finish this whole experiment off was to do a bit of a shootout, and I've got this EMU 5000 here, I've also got an Akai S1000, and I've got a Digitac, and so I've done the pitch up and down method with them, and then I wanted to compare them against some digital samplers like Renoise, just to highlight maybe the qualities and the magic in these samplers, which is somewhat in the pitching, interpolations, and just the sound qualities, how different they are. So let's have a bit of a shootout to finish this experiment off.